This week in our history, March the 17th. Excuse me. March the 17th, Norbert Rillet, engineer and scientist, was born in 1806. March the 18th, Louis Lothier is our first African American journalist to be given a Senate Press Gallery accreditation, and that was in 1947. March the 19th, James B. Parsons, first African American chief judge of a federal court in 1961. March the 20th, Harriet Beecher Stowe's book Uncle Tom's Cabin was published in 1852. March the 21st, Civil Rights March from Selma to Montgomery took place in 1965. And March the 22nd, the Slave Trade Act of 1794 is the first of several laws outlawing the importation of slaves to the United States in 1794. And March the 23rd, Patricia Roberts Harris, first African American woman to hold a cabinet of position. March the 23rd, Patricia Roberts Harris, our first African American woman to hold a cabinet position, actually passes away in 1985. Be sure to stay tuned for part 2 of this video series. Thanks so much, Riches. Now let's get to part 2. Part 2, in the part 2 section of this video, we want to give a big shout out to Ray J. Yes, Ray J. He is actually the co-founder of Raycom, and that is actually his online business where he sells wireless headphones and headsets and accessories to go with it. He was able to unmask a $31 million distribution deal, and for the first year his company has brought in $10 million in sales. So big shout out to Ray J on his new company. Is called Raycom. He is the co-founder, and I have posted the link to his company in the rich box below if you need some new headphones or wireless headphones, or if you need some headsets or accessories. Give Ray J a try, okay? He's big balling now, okay? Also, the next story I wanted to highlight is the story that I have been seeing all over my Instagram timeline, and it relates to the Australian Aboriginals. Now, they have actually won billions in a landmark reparations case. They are going to be compensated for their loss of land and their spiritual loss when it comes to some of the land over there in Australia. So just in case you've ever wondered what's an Aboriginal, I'm going to show some pictures as I'm talking, just some pictures I googled of Australian Aborigines or Aboriginals. A lot of people say that they are of African descent, but I will pull some of the information I pulled from Wiki to share with you today. Now, Aboriginal Australian is a collective term for all of the indigenous peoples from the Australian mainland and Tasmania. Scholars have disagreed whether the closest kin of the Aboriginal Australians outside of Australia were certain Asian groups, South Asian groups, or African groups. So it's always been a toss-up. They want to put these people either in South Asian groups or they want to put them in African groups. But if you ask me, they look like they're a mixture of both. To me, they look like they could be more African, but that's just my bias. Today, the Aboriginal Australians comprise about 3% of the Australian population. Before extensive European settlement, there were over 200 Aboriginal languages. Today, they mostly speak English. Now, let's get into some of the background as to how this case came about. Now, the Native Title Act came about after the landmark Mambo decision in 1993, which overturned the British claim that Australia was terra nullius, in quotation marks. Terra nullius. I'm going to put that word across the screen in case you want to look at it into it some more, which basically means nobody's land. Sometimes I wonder why can't they just say what it means, but terra nullius, so it means nobody's land. It found that Aboriginal rights to some, but by no means all land, survived colonialism and were not extinguished. Since then, Aboriginal groups have been able to file native title claims over large parts of the country. So the Europeans came in and tried to say, this ain't nobody's land, B. Okay, we're going to take this, as they've been known to do. Now, the High Court has handed down another landmark ruling on the matter of paying compensation for the loss of those rights, the loss of economic income related to the land, and the loss of spiritual connection to the land. Or in other words, they're putting a financial price on the severing of cultural ties. I call it reparations. If you've done research on these people, a lot of these people still live in the same sort of environment that they lived years ago, except for the fact now that they have access to a lot of the bad foods, whereas before they did a lot of living. They lived off the land. Everything was off the land. They were hunter-gatherers. Now they have, had a lot of Americanized, Australianized food, and a lot of the Aboriginal people are suffering from the same diseases that we have in the United States, the diabetes, the heart problems, and things like that. So big shout out to the Aboriginal Australian people. I'm hoping that, all of the people that the money is supposed to go to, or that their health care is taken care of. I don't know how they're going to do it, but that's a very interesting case, and I've posted a couple of links to the articles below. Those are the cases, or those are some of the things that I wanted to look at some more this week in history. Thank you so much for checking into my channel. I will see you on the next video. Peace.